Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube, where I've got the TNT takes for you on Million Dollar Island episode 11. That's right, I'm your host, Chris, and I'm back with my top 5 takes for the latest episode and the start of finale week. That was what was kind of hyped to us, even though it kind of feels like this finale week is being dragged out a little bit. But before we get into it, please consider subscribing, please consider hitting the like button, putting the notification bell on so that you can be informed the next time we drop one of these top 5 takes, or when we go live to talk about some of your favorite reality TV shows throughout Australia and also the USA. A lot of new content dropping on the channel very soon. So let's get into the top 5 takes here. The first takeaway is let's talk a little bit about Jordan's reign and power. And it very much felt to me like power really went to his head here this week when he got the ability to make a move. He wanted to make sure that he inflicted the most amount of damage. And we do know that Jordan's been struggling. He has gone to Vine Camp many a times in the past, and he has asked for them to consider giving him some food and for humanity to prevail. And we also know that Log Camp have held themselves at a higher moral standard than any of the other camps out there. Like, they have said that this is more than a game. This is about, not being bullies, treating everybody fairly out there. And Jordan goes against all of that, and I think he potentially becomes one of the biggest villains that we've seen in a reality TV show in a while. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with the move that he made if he didn't really sort of try and guilt trip Jack and the rest of the Vine camp about giving them food and just, about being better human beings. If that didn't happen, then I would have probably felt a little bit better about this. But it left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth here in this episode because they went back on the moral standards that they set for themselves out there in this game. That's how I'm perceiving it in any case as a viewer. I'd be interested to know what you, the viewer, think about it. Did you feel good about this? Did you feel Team Jordan? Because I firmly stood behind Matt in this episode. Jordan goes to the Vine camp. He has a conversation with both Chloe and Matt, and he says that if you give me what I want, I won't put you up for the survival challenge. And they do cave in. Chloe was the one who felt the most unsecure, or insecure, I should say, and wanted that safety where Matt just didn't trust him from the start. And that was good instincts on Matt's side here. But they do end up giving them the food, which ends up being stolen from them because obviously Jordan goes back on his word, which is fair enough. He's been burned. He feels a certain kind of way. And I do feel like every action out there has got a reaction. This was the reaction. But again, I feel like for Jordan to go to this depth shows that he definitely had it in him to turn it on. And it makes me feel a little bit less good about him trying to guilt trip Jack and the Vine camp into giving him food and trying to make them out to not be great human beings for not wanting to share. Because, you two wrongs don't make a right out there, in my mind, in any case. But one thing I will give to Jordan, even though I'm not fully Team Jordan, I'm sure he's a great guy outside of the game. I'm just talking about what I saw on this game and what I saw of him as a character on the screen out there. One of the things I did like that he did here in this episode is that takeaway 2, he does end up going to both Brett and Chelsea, and he tries to broker a deal with the three of them being the richest people out there. He has this deal that he says, I'll keep you safe, Brett, this time around, if you guys can look out for me next time. That, to me, now we're sort of getting rid of the floaties that these guys have had on the whole time playing this game. Not much strategy going on, and some strategy is happening, and people are trying to better themselves in the game, working across tribal allegiances and things like that. And I think Jordan, now we know that he is willing to go to this depths of betraying people. I think he would throw everybody in his camp. He'll backstab all of them before he backstabs potentially Brett and Chelsea if that can get him to the final, which to me is a good deal. The richest people out there have proven themselves, so they want to try and get to the end here. But Brett does not seem to be someone that wants to honor this deal. He doesn't give a crap. We know that he just wants to play for numero uno, and that's himself. And we see many, many times again here that Brett is a self-interested player. And he doesn't even care for Chelsea in the game. He's okay for Chelsea to go out of the game and for him to backstab her, even though Chelsea seems to be somewhat loyal to Brett. And she's not picking this up from him, which is interesting so far. And that the editor's not showing us that Chelsea is, got any kind of inkling that he is turning against her here in the game. All right, let's talk about takeaway 3 here, the daily challenge. They start off on this big rig with like a slide into the water. They have to grab a buoy, go down with the buoy, and then navigate it through knots and a rope onto the beach. And then from there, they've got to run up the sand and throw down some targets. And the first person to complete this, they will then successfully get back into the game. And I do want to backtrack just a little bit because on the way to the challenge, Maddie is obviously fuming that, they betrayed, that Vinecamp betrayed him. And I didn't even get an opportunity to say this previously, but hats off to Tess and Alpha that called out the rest of LogCamp because they're all like, well, we're not in this move. We didn't agree with it. Well, they enjoyed eating the food, right? So, if you didn't agree with the move, you wouldn't have ate the food. So, if you're going to hold yourself to this high moral standard out there, then I'm glad that Tess and both Alpha held them accountable at the end of the day, because Top Camp's not great blokes either and girls over there either, but they own the fact that they're villainous. I don't think that LogCamp have owned this, and this is why if I was able to go out there and play the game, and granted, maybe a lot of people from that camp have not watched a lot of competitive reality TV before, I've watched enough Survivor and I've watched enough of these shows that I wouldn't try and pretend like I'm above doing certain things in the game, because I do think in the game, sometimes you're going to get pushed into a corner where you will have to do questionable things to get ahead in the game. And Top Camp have owned up to that. LogCamp haven't owned up to that. And if they went out there and said, listen, we completely did it, we feel bad about it, but guess what? We realized if we can't beat you, we have to join you in your villainous game. It doesn't help we're the only ones trying to play by this moral code that no one else is going to play with. I think people would have had a lot more respect for that, and for them to own up that, hey, we had to throw our morals out and just do what we needed to do. But they kind of tried to, in a very slimy way, put all the blame on Jordan when they're definitely 100% a part of the move. But Matty, as he goes to this challenge, he does go and throw water over the fire and tries to put that out so they can't eat. But what he didn't know is that they had a flint, so they could very easily get it back. But it was still a fun scene to see Matt go out there and say, hey, I'm not going out without a fight, and at least trying to get back at them. And there's no better way to put egg on Jordan's face than what Maddie did here in this episode, because he does end up winning the survival challenge, ensuring his safety in the game and becoming one of the richest people out there with 130K. Very impressive performance by him. No one was even close. The edit tried to make us think that Tess probably could catch up, but I think that it was a blowout at the end here for Maddie, who really showed that physically he is going to be a threat and somebody that people need to be aware of going into the finale week here. I've got an eye on Maddie. He seemed to play the kind of game that I would have liked to play if I was out there. He only had, I think, 2 bracelets going into this, so he didn't really put his hand up to get thrown into challenges and things like that. Didn't feel like he needed to prove anything to himself or others out there. He waited for the right opportunity to get in the game. Well, he didn't volunteer, but he got thrown down there, he proved himself, and now he's well and truly in with a shot with 130K on his arm. So overall, great challenge. I liked it. I liked the physicality of it, and it's again, there's some throwbacks to Survivor and things like that. I think it's very hard to be creative. There's probably only that many things you can do on a beach like that, so a lot of the challenges will kind of mirror what we see in Survivor. Now let's get into a challenge that did not really mirror anything that we've, I think, seen before on reality TV, and that's the survival challenge. As we get into takeaway number 4 here, it looked extremely hard and complicated. They had to grab some coconut husk and then weave their own ropes that had to be 10 meters long. They could do it throughout the night, 12 hours, and ask anybody on the beach to help them, which I like. It was a massive disadvantage for Vine because they only had 2 people left in their camp. I guess it kind of equaled out because Top Camp had so many people in there that, who do you help in that camp to weave this rope? But they ended up having to weave this rope throughout the night, and then they only got a little bit of information that it had to be strong enough to pull something up. So interesting strategies here being used, because we do see that Simon, he very early on realizes that he's not going to have any friends at Top Camp. So he goes to Log Camp and he asks them to help him, and they do. They do step up to help him, but he doesn't actually, put in the effort himself. He goes to sleep and expects Log Camp to care about him winning. It was very confusing. He was probably tired after the daily challenge, but he really messed up here. And, Carla quite rightfully said she had to go sleep as well because they could be in a challenge the next morning and she didn't want to tire herself out if this guy wasn't going to fight tooth and nail to the end to get there and win. Another interesting scene here was, again, Brett telling his top camp, sorry, guys, you're all on your own. I don't give a crap. I'm going to go sleep. If people in top camp, this should be a wake-up call to Chelsea to say, this guy's not a team player. He doesn't care for anybody else out there. He's probably a great guy in real life. It feels like I've been very harsh on Brett here in the last couple of top 5 takes, but I do like him as a character. I do think, every good show needs a villain, needs this person out there that is just not a part of the group. And, I probably would be a bit selfish myself, but I wouldn't be as obvious as him. I'm just shocked that people aren't aware that he is playing this selfish game, because I don't think socially, he's not really hiding it from people, and they're yet still not looking at him as a threat or anything like that. He doesn't even get thrown in here in this episode. But so they all had to struggle. Tess, I thought, going into this, was going to win because the edit has been so much behind Tess from the beginning of the season. We've always known who she was, playing out there for her family, and she's had such a vocal part of the show until this point that I really thought we would see her all the way go through to the finals or something. And she had this technique of, she said she's braided hair before, and she had a very good technique to get this rope together and look really thick and strong. But at the end of the day, none of them can pull up this crate and all of their ropes break. There's no second chances this time around for anyone. The stakes have truly been raised heading into finale week. All right, so the last one here is that the rules are changing to the game. We hear that this is going to be the final spin, and this spin is going to be the one you want to win. It's got all the power because whoever wins will decide which 5 players go down there, except it changes to 4 because Sean only has 1 bracelet and goes straight into this next elimination challenge. So 4 people will get nominated, and then the person who's left at the end of this elimination, the richest person that is left, I should say, they automatically go to the finale. So there is a lot of power involved in this. Now, currently we know that's Chelsea. She has to do the math and make sure that if there is a way she can nominate people that can't get past her in this next round, I think that's the safest route. It would mean that she would automatically go to the finale. But if there is a way that they can catch up to her, she's going to have to go in there and potentially defend her spot as the richest woman on the island to go straight to the finale. I do quite like this. I'm interested to see how the show is going to end, but that is it here for my top 5 takes this week. If you do like this type of content and you want to know a little bit more about my thoughts, a little bit more about Mucky's thoughts, I should be back at this stage to do the live. I don't believe Kahuna will be back yet. Don't quote me on it. He may still drop in last minute if he feels up to it, but I don't want to pressure him into doing the live. So there is a good chance either myself or Kahuna will host the live this week, and we will have a great live audience again to go back and forth on a lot of controversial things that have happened this week. I'm very interested to know what you, the live audience, would think about it, and also what my co-host Mucky would think about some of the backstabbing that has happened this week. But for now, I bid you farewell. I'll catch you guys next week when we get into the semi-final of $1 Million Island. Bye.